You can see groups of fish like this. They're happy there. There's probably 100 fish in this weed. I'll show you how big the weed bed is. There's lots of big fish in there. I can easily count 50 without doing too much looking. And they're quite happy in there. Majority of them would have spawned already by now. It's very hot, obviously. Oxygen's at a premium. And don't get me wrong, if you were sensible and you could safely catch one of those fish, bring it to the bank, unhook it, let it go, get in the water, take a picture, you're not going to do terrible amounts of harm. But if you can imagine what they're going through right now, at the moment they're not wasting much energy. And at some periods during the day, they'll go and have a feed. But to do that, they're using a lot of energy, oxygen, and if they get caught, the stress is ridiculous. And we've proved this so many times. When you literally hook a fish, get it to the edge, and then let it go, it's just minimal stress compared to going from here up onto the bank in a sling, and it's never a 2-minute job. Most anglers got a mat that's bloody been in the sun, and they've got bucket hot water, and they've got 10 different gadgets and gizmos nowadays for cat pictures and weighing and all that sort of stuff. And the difference is, if all you do is hook it, land it, you can easily get in most lakes. I know some people say, "Oh, I can't swim," and all right, yeah, I'm aware of that. But you can get in the water. You don't have to take the fish out of the water, and especially at this time of year. We don't do it anyway, but at this time of year, it's ridiculous. I saw some brace shots the other day, out of the water, in the shade, so you've walked a distance with the fish. There's no need to do that. It's extreme. And like I say, those fish out there, they're happy. They're very happy sitting there, loving life. Some big fish out there. If I had a tripod, I'd get some good. I can't send the drone up because Fairford Air Show's happening, and it won't let me take off. But there's some really good fish out there. And like I say, again, it's weedy out there, so if you were trying to catch them, you'd want decent gear to get them in. There's no point hooking a fish if you can't land it. And this is just one example on a carp fishery. But those fish are really content. There's lots and lots of them, in and out of the weed. But like I say, the main thing is when it's this hot, think of the fish more than, and think of yourself as well. It's like if you stand in the sun with no hat, no glasses, no sunscreen on a day like it was a couple of days ago, and it's due to be at the weekend, 30 plus degrees, the air's heavy, you're struggling. And if you were running around working in the heat, what I did, I was very, very ill yesterday because of what we did the day before. We did 16 hours a day before in the heat, and yes, I had hats and all the kit on, but it was too much, and the air was really thick. We did drink plenty of water as well, and we used to hard work, and I was struggling big time. But that was 24 hours later, and that's also a relevant point, the fact that just because you catch a fish, and this is the main issue, if you catch a fish and you do all the gubbins, people don't tend to take a picture right here. They'll go up there, or go over there, or go all those extra little bits of stress. You don't need to be doing that. Honestly, it's a real, it's ridiculous. And they'll sack them if they're doing for magazine features, and they'll sack it, put it in a retainer. Go, oh, these are special retainers. No, they're all the same. Put it in a retainer. It's right in the edge. You probably stirred the water up. Regardless, stress is what's does the damage. Because when you put the fish back, you think, oh, it swam off, it's fine, or you think it's not my problem. But it's not that. It's the day after, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the added stress. They need to eat this time of year. They're going to eat this time of year. But there's tons of people putting videos on about fish welfare and fish handling. Anyone who's met us and worked with us understands exactly what we think of all the situation. There's a massive, great big fish there. It's a shame I can't get the drone up, but that's huge. He's quite happy there. And I've got no doubt that later on in the day, when it cools down a bit, you could probably get these going on the surface. But A, you don't want to be doing it unless you can safely land one, and B, there's no way you want to be getting out of the water. People will say, but that's how it's done. It's like, well, no, that's just how you might be doing it. But if you generally put in the fish first, you would literally get yourself, you don't even need waders here, you could just walk in, take your shoes and socks off, get in, set your tripod up. You don't need anyone with you, unless if you're disabled, obviously you need help fishing anyway. But then you can just pop in, lift it up. If you need to weigh it, if you don't know what a 20 or a 30 or a 40 pounder looks like, then go catch more. But obviously you can weigh fish, but do it in the water. Hello boys, do it in the water. It makes a lot of difference to the fish. I know it might mean you might get wet, or you might be a bit scared, or you might get bitten by a dragonfly larvae or something like that, but sorry, if you're going to come fishing in extremes, put the fish first. And if you are disabled, or you just need help, or you struggle, take a friend fishing, or get someone to go with you, Just try and think about that. You'll get a lot more credibility from fishery owners. And believe me, fishery owners talk to each other, and you'll get put at the front of queues for syndicates and that sort of thing. And it's not elitist, and it's not favouritism. You want responsible anglers looking after your livestock. It's quite simple, really. Anglers are 100% easier to replace than fish. It's easy, you can just turn around, just buy some more. Yeah, well, that's where a lot of people struggle. But it's, these are things that, as anglers, you need to be responsible for. And I think it's a shame that people don't understand enough, because when you put a fish back, yes, all right, it might technically be alive, but it'd be like getting in a fight with someone and you beating the shit out of them. They're still alive most of the time, but they might have shock. They might have. It's what happens after. It's like PTSD and that sort of thing. It's not the event; it's after the event, and that's very, very true with fish. Not just carp at all. Like I said yesterday, silverfish are much more vulnerable than carp, believe it or not, in the summer. So when you're looking at all these beautiful fish here, I'm gutted I can't get the drone up, of which there are loads. It's a privilege just to be able to catch them. I wouldn't be fishing this, it's just too hot for me personally, to be honest, but I ain't got a problem with people fishing when it's warm, obviously. We all grew up fishing in the summers, it's lovely. But at the same time, you learn very, very quickly when you start working with fish and fishery management and actually doing the job, not talking about it, that you can't take the piss. They're delicate creatures. And just because technically, yes, it might survive if you leave it out of the water for a while and take your 20 pictures and piss around for bloody half an hour, that's just not the point. Oxygen's at a premium, and the fish are very, very stressed, and anglers need to appreciate that. And certainly when we open a couple of our lakes, I won't care about upsetting anglers. I'll only pick anglers that I know can be trusted, really. Leaving your rods unattended, all the usual things, leaving your rods unattended, and fishing up to weed, leaving your rods in, and not being organised, not being ready. Well, there's loads of places you can go and fish little day tickets for that sort of fishing, but all the best places, they expect a certain standard from the anglers, and rightly so. Rightly so. We've got to look after the fish, and as things are going, with the climate and with how how natural, how precious a resource water is now, these lakes are going to be much more valuable as not as an asset, not as ignore business, ignore money, but just as something that, yes, more and more people are going to want to visit as time goes by. But we need to preserve them, and we need to maintain high standards, and we need to educate more and more people to do the same. Because we see a lot of good things, but equally we just see the same old horror stories from the same old anglers doing what they think's right, and I'm sorry, but it isn't sometimes. You got to just do what's right for the fish. If you're going to put a rod and line in the water and physically try and hook a fish and catch a fish, then you better be willing to be, especially this time of year, looking after it properly. And in my opinion, looking after it properly doesn't actually mean getting it out and putting it in a retainer and getting shots of both sides and getting 20 shots of each for you can do all that in the water, and if you can't, you can do it right next to the water's edge. The cameras are fantastic now. You don't need to go and find shade, and if you're worried about people finding your spot or whatever, just blur the back of the picture out. Every phone can do that now, so there's no excuse. I don't care about, it's carpy though. Well, is it really? Well, I'd want my fish to be alive. They can live a long time and they can grow and look fantastic. Again, it's not just about carp, but carp are very popular. That's why we talk about them a lot. So you have to be responsible. You have to be accountable for your actions. And people will get chucked off lakes, and rightly so, if they're doing things. It doesn't matter what they think. I'm sorry, but if you're going onto someone else's property, or you join a club, or you join a syndicate, then you are basically signing up to abide by the rules set out by the club or the syndicate. And if you don't want to do that, go and fish somewhere else. There's plenty of places you can fish. And I'm not talking about this lake in particular at all. I'm talking about every lake, wherever you go.